Good afternoon, all present. We are now moving into an intriguing part of our session, that is panel discussion on new age analysis in food testing. To guide us through this important discussion, we are honored to have Dr. Samuel Godefroy as our moderator. With his vast experience in food science and regulatory frameworks, he is perfectly positioned to guide us through this important discussion. Welcome, sir. Now I invite our panelists. Our first panelist is Dr. Katrina Mastowska, Deputy Executive Director and Chief Science Officer, AOAC International. Welcome to the dais, ma'am. She is a leading authority in analytical methods with a focus on ensuring food safety and quality through advanced testing techniques. Next, we have Dr. Susan Morris, Specialist Advisor Residues, New Zealand Food Safety. She brings her expertise in residue testing and regulatory frameworks that protect public health through robust safety standards. I would like to invite Dr. Susan Morris to the dais. Next, we have Dr. Le Thi Phuong Thao, Deputy Director, National Institute for Food Control, Vietnam. Please welcome to the dais, ma'am. As Deputy Director at her institute, she leads quality management system development and has extensive research experience in food safety and science. Our fourth panelist is Dr. Sunil Khare, Director, Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, Kolkata, India. A prominent researcher in the field of microbial biochemistry, Dr. Khare's work is pivotal in advancing enzyme technology for innovative food safety solutions. I welcome Dr. Khare to the dais. I now invite Dr. Shyam Narayan Jha, Deputy Director General, Agricultural Engineering, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, and Chairperson of Scientific Committee of FSSAI. Dr. Jha is renowned for his work in non-destructive food quality evaluation and innovative product development. Please welcome Dr. Shyam Narayan Jha to the stage. Next, we are joined by Dr. Bhaskar Narayan, Director CSIR, Indian Institute of Toxicological Research, and a key member of Scientific Committee of FSSAI. As former advisor FSSAI and with over 26 years of expertise, Dr. Narayan's contribution to food safety are widely recognized. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Bhaskar Narayan. We will now proceed with the session. I now hand over the stage to Dr. Samuel Godefroy to moderate our panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and it's truly a privilege to be part of this session again, and also to be accompanied by an illustrious panel and the contribution of so many experts from India and from around the world. So we will attempt actually to navigate several aspects related to food testing, and particularly to challenges and opportunities brought by the introduction of new technologies, new methods of analysis, also new approaches of handling the outputs of these methods of analysis to support food control systems. So like in previous settings, we will attempt, of course, time permitting, to go through a number of rounds of discussions with the involvement of our panelists. And we will start with the first round related to the positioning of these new technologies in food testing, and some of the challenges, but also some of the requirements that are associated with the introduction of these new testing techniques in food control systems. And again, starting with Dr. Katrina Mastowska, again, with your responsibilities as the Chief Science Officer. of AOAC International. I think now I don't need to reintroduce AOAC International. We may have actually maybe a challenge on the date of the creation. I had 1884, so maybe 1885. So we're kind of close there.
84.
84. Okay, so we're I think it's
140 years.
140 years essentially celebration
This
of
month.
This month. Okay, well, you know what? Happy birthday, happy anniversary to AOAC International. And again, AOAC International has been a lead organization supporting the standardization of food analytical methods. And we know that method developers continue to innovate, to develop new approaches of food testing using these new technologies, including whole genome sequencing, but not only that. And I guess the question is, how does a standardization organization such as AOAC International deal with these new approaches, particularly how do we introduce them into the standardization approach such that they become more usable?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And thank you for celebrating AOAC's birthday. We had a big celebration last month during our annual meeting, but it's really nice to celebrate here as well. So to answer your question, we typically start with development of guidelines or standard guidance for implementation and validation of these methodologies, because it's one thing is to use them for research, the other one is to use them for routine testing and also data collection for decision making. So we typically start with that approach using collaboration of experts to develop this type of guidance. For example, recently we developed a guidance for next generation sequencing, and now we're starting on metagenomics. So we are actually launching a working group on metagenomics in a couple of months. And it should be agnostic standards for metagenomics, not just to use them for these technologies for, let's say, microbial testing, but also for other applications such as authenticity. So, so again, the previous speaker talked about the kind of issues with sharing data from metagenomics and concerns about using metagenomics for, especially by industry, because you can have a lot of different information stored in those data sets. So it's important to collect data in standardized way, in a way that it can be shareable information, but also data interpretation is another issue. So all of this is something that we will be discussing in these working groups and develop guidance for. But there are many other technologies. So in the previous session, we talked about non-targeted testing. And that's another big concern, how do you validate methods for non-targeted testing? Again, different applications for residues, contaminants, for authenticity, metabolomics type of approaches, and so on. So we started a working group in our AOAC Europe section, which is laying groundwork for use of non-targeted testing in routine setting and for official methods, for example. Another working group I want to mention is looking at bioassays as a replacement for animal-based testing. So again, laying groundwork for use of bioassays in food testing to assess toxicology basically of foods and also packaging, for example. So right now, as you may know, these are used typically for single molecules, very limited, kind of isolated chemicals, and using those for complex mixtures is a whole different challenge. And again, it comes down to data interpretation of these bioassays and how can we also link them to chemical methods, because once we see the effect of the bioassays, how do we confirm it by the effect, what it comes from? So all of these challenges are there. We have technologies available, but we need to make sure that they are validated properly, so we know that the data which will be the result of these methods are usable.
Thank you very much, Katrina. It's great also to see the level of foresight that is available, and also I think it's probably a testament also to the level of collaboration of AOAC. I think one of the ways that AOAC was used to be called, because we met, and I say we because I'm a member, I guess, so I have a disclosure of interest there, member of AOAC International. I think one of the acronyms definition was the Association of Official Analytical Collaboration. And that's the current definition. So I'm glad we haven't moved yet from that one. And I think that's a theme that we will be exploring also as part of the elements to support the introduction of these new technologies and the reliance on these technologies. Moving into the Indian context, and I'm going to ask Dr. Bhaskar, with essentially the way your institute contributes to the robustness of the food control system and also the introduction of new methods, new approaches, how do you see these technologies, whether be it analytical methods with the new technologies or the use of the data, for example, the reliance on AI, how do you see these methods, these approaches better contributing to the effectiveness of the food control system in India?
Thank you, Samuel. Let me begin by saying every interaction is an opportunity for learning. It's basically so true for new age analysis as well. I would say, I think what technology has taught us is to go into trans, not the trans foods, not the trans fats. It's, to repurpose for assuring any nutritious or safetiness of the food. When you get into that mode, if you go back 5 years, nobody knew what a Zoom could do or what WebEx could do. One pandemic taught that it can be repurposed for so many things. Similarly, there are technologies that now that have come to the field. Earlier they are known to be only available in the laboratories under air-conditioned rooms. Now you have mass spectrophotometers coupled with hyperspectral imaging, which can be taken to the field, which can make regulatory decisions both for a producer, for a supplier, or for a processor, and that can be effectively used by regulators as well. In that context, the computational field or the artificial neuronal networks or even the machine learning, like I said in the beginning, every interaction is an opportunity for learning. The machine keeps learning, and then actually it can start predicting what can happen. So there were, to that effect, we in India quite fortunate that we have a agency that can even provide us with satellite imaging, which can actually get into the supply chain as well, where the satellite imagery can be used to know what kind of contaminants or what kind of pollutants that can be tracked back to the water system and then which can get into the food system. So the opportunities are plenty. But whenever such things are used, it has to be used with caution for two reasons. Like I know, in the previous panel discussion, when you began the discussion, the USDA personnel was rightly pointing out that always there is a chance to be misled by the piece of information that you're going to have. It's about 4 blind men examining an elephant. So each one will have an interpretation. So the point of using new age analysis is also to have a correct interpretation coming with that particular technique. Otherwise, there's always an opportunity for any regulator or even the consumer to be misled by misinterpretation. So I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think, again, this notion of the reliance on the right data, on robustness of the data, the accuracy of the data, and the right context of use of the data will, I think, be a theme that you will continue to discuss in the way, particularly these new techniques, whether be it AI or others, are being implemented. We've heard earlier from Dr. Morris and Susan, you've shared with us some insights on the way, particularly the residue monitoring program is being implemented in New Zealand, and also, I guess, considering also New Zealand to be a pioneering jurisdiction in food control system and the implementation of robust control protocols. I guess my question to you, how do you make these programs potentially evolve considering the emergence of new technologies? How do you essentially adapt these residue programs? I know you touched on that a little bit in your earlier intervention, but if you can emphasize on this element particularly.
Thank you, Sam. For the New Zealand monitoring programs for dairy, meat, fish and honey, our competent authority, the Ministry for Primary Industries, contracts testing laboratories to perform official testing. This contract specifies the test method, the test parameters, and requires accuracy in reporting of results under the accreditation scope of the laboratory. Accreditation is an internationally accepted means of ensuring test results are reliable and produce accurate results. Most of the methods for residues and contaminants are based on international standards and are quantitative, but some qualitative methods are in use for screening. At our main laboratory, testing these animal products for residues and contaminants, there's been a very recent adoption of a new screening technology. The implementation of a multiplexed biochip platform for detecting antibiotic residues in milk has been verified for use in this laboratory. This takes a cumbersome, finicky, slow, microbiological-based screening test and replaces it with a modern multiplex technique, which is faster, more reliable, more accurate, more sensitive, and includes a broader range of analytes. The use of the biochip platform had not previously been assessed by New Zealand's accreditation agency, and this is a requirement, as I said, for monitoring program testing. However, this new approach has successfully passed the accreditation audit and is a good example of an accurate and effective new technology being integrated into official monitoring controls, as we're now using it for official testing for antibiotic residues in milk. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Susan. And I guess actually I think this is a great example to showcase the importance of subjecting also these new technologies when they are integrated into control programs to the same requirements of rigor, including essentially the parameters that are required by the accreditation processes. So thank you for that. I guess actually I'm going to ask maybe a similar question to the chairperson of the scientific committee of India's FSSAI, Dr. Jha, and basically asking how India and how FSSAI in particular as the primary food safety regulator integrates new techniques of food monitoring in the official controls, and also what are the steps that may be required before such integration.
Thank you, Dr. Godefroy. Good name, God, and then pray both together. So this is a very good gathering, and I see most of the things are from India, and some audience are also from abroad. I will say that it is very difficult for Indian case. It is totally different than we cannot compare with Australia or New Zealand. Usually we write in many documents that we lost foods as much as New Zealand and Australia produces together. We lost in post-harvest and supply chain that much foods because of mishandling or because of not proper handling and lack of little bit of storage. India is a land of 86% farmers who are marginal or small landholdings. And their lands are even 95% lands are less than 1/4 hectares. Very, very small farmers. It is very difficult to control by FSSAI or by any agency. If something is very much succeed in India, it will be succeed in whole country, whole world, I will tell. So we need, FSSAI has come into being in 2006. I remember in 2002 when I write a first paper probably, that how milk adulterants can be detected using the NIR, all adulterations. There were so many cases, though it was very stray cases were coming in India for artificial milk, mixing with the natural milk, and it was very difficult to find out the ways and means by chemical methods to detect. And we came out with a NIR sensor and then detecting all the adulterants at once. And sent a paper, if I remember, International Journal of Food Science and Technology, published from the UK. At that time it was told that this kind of adulteration is not possible. Kindly publish it wherever it is being done in the world. And now whole world is taking place. The same thing, food frauds, food adulterations, insecticide, pesticides. This is a very serious issue. Machine learning, mass spectrometers, or genome editing, we cannot talk at farmers level. If you cannot talk, we cannot give a small handheld equipment, machinery, instruments to a farmer. We cannot assure very good raw material for food processing. So in fact, that should be the first strike point for any authority in big country or a small country, that how to produce, how to supply a good raw material for the food processing industry. Once the safe raw material, then question come at processing level. So we have to FSSI has several networks of laboratory around, I think 12 referral laboratory they have, and also they have 261 food testing laboratory accredited by NABL, and also some industry, private company. Altogether we have more than 300 laboratories. They are at workplace, but that is really very lengthy process. What happens, you see, our festival season, a lot of adulterations comes in foods, particularly during the festival. And it takes long time. Long time means sometimes 2 years, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months for giving the report. By that time, thousands or lakhs of people have already eaten or taken that food. So altogether, I suggest that we are working to develop some instrument handheld, and FSSI has developed a platform for rapid testings. But rapid testing sometimes also takes a lot of time, maybe 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. But we personally are working to develop some instruments which can give in a minute or 2 minutes most of the parameters. And that kind of work is going on. We have developed some kinds of instrument which is very small, can detect instantly the aflatoxin in maize, whatever you are supplying the chain, and that can be tested and that can be employed at all the places. Similarly, we have many other things. Another important things I will tell you for food safety fields, not only India, for the whole world. You see, we have hundreds of parameters to determine how many instruments you will do. You have to determine the food safety factor from all point of view. So first kind of work which we have developed for some, particularly for mango and also for apples and also some other overall quality index. We have developed the parameters using the spectroscopy IR, that how one lot of hue and cry in India since 2-3 days is for adulteration of ghee, one of the very good products of milk. And we had already NIR spectrometer models which can test the outside fat mixed in the ghee. So that kinds of instrumentation, but we are lacking here. And FSSI altogether with Australia and New Zealand, we need collaboration of development of such kind of instrument as soon as possible. And from the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, also Government of India has many schemes to promote such kind of company to come India and manufacture that with the collaboration of our company. That will actually reduce the cost of instrument, a small instrument, and which will be usable by the farmers. Then only we can assure the food safety at latter end. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. John. Thank you again for highlighting the importance of testing and also the testing capacity in checking the integrity of the ingredients and again supporting the safety of the food supply. I'm going to actually continue with our Indian experts and turning to Dr. Sunil Kare. And actually, as part of your responsibilities in directing an institute of science education and research, and knowing really the challenges of being able to introduce new technologies, particularly on the availability of talent, the availability of competencies. And if you can share with us some insights on how educational institutions could or should even contribute to the development of food analytical testing talent, I'm going to call it, and actually the development of that talent such that we can embrace these new techniques and new technologies.
Thank you, Professor, and good afternoon, everyone. I would like to put in the perspective that there are new age techniques available. There are handheld devices, handheld XRF, handheld NIR, handheld spectrometers, one class, advanced instrumentation but handheld, which is very useful. Raman SCRS, this is another thing which is available now. Second is the sensors and aptamer based testing. Biosensors are available for different kind of testings. Third could be the molecular biology based techniques to determine the spoilage or pathogenic microorganism in the food. And next generation sequencings are available, metagenomics tools are available. So these are available. Second is the category of the contaminants which we are looking for. Traditionally the pesticides, adulterants and everything, but same time with the new age testing, the new contaminants are also emerging. Nobody would have thought about 2 years ago that nanoplastic will become a kind of contaminant in the foods. The antimicrobial resistance gene or the antimicrobial or drug resistant bacteria are an issue now, which we have to face in coming years. So there are emerging challenges. Now coming back to the role of educational institutes in handling these things, I would like to say that I have had privilege to be associated with two eminent institutions. I was part of Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi for a very long time. And then now I am in a different institution, which is Indian Institute of Science and Education Research. At both the places, there are very bright students. They are trained, well trained in science. In fact, Dr. Sakshi, who was our student in IIT Delhi, they are well trained in all advanced instrumentation, in chemistry, or analytical tools, or even the molecular biology tools or microbiological tools. They are, but what is missing is the perspective of their application in food testing or food safety evaluations. They are not exposed to that. They know techniques, but they know how to use it. That is what Professor Godefroy is asking, how we can train them. Yeah, that is missing. This interface is missing, I do admit. I also didn't realize it until I was sent by FAO to work on anti-nutrients in the food. And then further UNDP sent me to National Food Research Institute, Japan, to remediate it, to remove those anti-nutrients by using enzymes. Then being a basic biochemist and microbiologist, I had no idea, but when I got involved in this, I thought, oh, here is the right application. So this kind of exposure should also go to the students, which is missing. Sadly, this interface is missing. So now question is how it can be done. It can be done in my opinion, you see one good example is Sati. I think many of you will be aware that DST has launched a scheme called Sati. Sati is sophisticated instrumentation labs, and they have given these labs to say 7 or 8 eminent institutions, gave lots of money in the tune of 500 crores each or plus more. But these instrumentations are open to all, students get trained on them, and then also the industry sample comes there. That's a model. So if something like FSSAI can also support a food testing instrumentation, and in such institutions where students are there with good knowledge, good competence, but lacking the exposure of the application of these techniques in foods. So if such centers can be supported, I think students will be, quite competent to handle the challenges of new age analysis. Second is like typically we are saying Indian knowledge system courses should be integral part of any BS, MS or BTech, MTech program. Can we have online courses on the food sciences supported by food science analysis supported by FSSAI? They can sponsor such courses. A student can take up online courses or maybe even part of the regular curriculum. Then I think this will bridge the gap between these two requirements. So in my opinion, it can be done, but there has to be a way to do it. And naturally, the Indian food regulators, especially the regulatory body of FSSAI kind, has to come forward to actually bring the interface between basic science training and their application part in the food science new age analysis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sunil, and again for emphasizing the importance of managing both the practical considerations with the academic training, such that we enable effective operators and effective food analytical expertise. I'm going to turn to our colleague from Vietnam, and thank you for being with us, Dr. Tao. And I wanted to ask your insights and sharing with us the experience of another jurisdiction, Vietnam, a member of ASEAN, which is investing heavily in food safety enhancements, and the way you see these new technologies, these new testing methods being integrated and being supportive of your efforts to upgrade the performance of the food control system in Vietnam.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, to invite me, so I have a chance to be here to share my experience about food control. For the Vietnam, the same with other country. Food technology is developed. So annually, many novel foods register. And also for the in the farm, chemical industry is also developed, and for the bacteria is also change, species change. So new technology for analysis also develops. So if new analysis technology is good for food testing because of new technology can update the information about the chemical, about the bacteria, and also the new technology for more quick and more accuracy in food testing. Sometimes we for the annually for food surveillance, sometimes we can found the unknown chemical is not popular before. So it's support for state control, for the communication, for the more investigation, and also the new technology support for investigate for foodborne disease. In case of gene sequencing, we apply gene sequencing for analysis to investigate the foodborne disease, cause of foodborne disease. And for the machine learning, we now approve and have some study for next apply. And for the detection and determine hazards, annually we have the surveillance program to characterize hazards and report to food authority for more action and more investigation is needed. And for the food safety investigation, we we use the update technology and update test methods for investigation and for the decision making. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience and the experience of institutions in the food control system in Vietnam about this particular topic. We have only 15 minutes left, actually, to tackle the other topics, if I'm not mistaken, right? We can, okay, I'm going to attempt actually nonetheless with the contribution of our panelists still to stick within the time, and I will be combining perhaps two topics that I wanted us to touch upon. I think it was clearly highlighted the importance of collaboration between the stakeholder community and also the importance of investing in capacity building. So those are the areas where I would like to hear some insights from our panelists, and starting again with Dr. Mastovska, again, with AOAC's international standardization activities, and you've touched upon the way you exercise that foresight, you try to identify areas of interest and areas of need. How do you manage that in the context of the multiple stakeholders that are involved? But also now considering that AOAC has a section in India, AOAC India, how do you see AOAC India contributing to enhancing the food analytical capacity and also to support capacity building in food testing overall, and of course in the adoption of new technologies in particular?
Okay, so you mentioned collaboration. I think that's really key because we do collaborate with different stakeholders on these, I would call it horizon scanning events, where we look at new technologies, emerging issues, and we work with people from governments, from academia, from food industry, technology providers, and including regional sections, like section in India. One thing I want to highlight is that we are not only looking at new technologies, but also emerging issues and gaps in methods. And here at this summit, I've heard multiple times novel foods, including in the keynote. That's something that we basically really were approached by multiple stakeholders about needs for methods for novel foods, because we may have traditional foods where we have validated methods, but we don't have these reliable methods for novel foods. And in many cases, there can be also some new analytes, not just new matrices, but also new analytes. I think you mentioned here, I think, the anti-nutrients, for example, in plant-based products, or there can be some new microorganisms, right, which may not be in normal foods because they have different production processes. Or there can be some residues from production or some byproducts from fermentation, for example. So, and I won't even not talk about insect and issues with insect testing. So there's a lot of challenges and new topics. So we launched a new program on novel foods at AOAC. Our first topic is focused on amino acids, because even though it may seem quite basic, but we really need some basic reference method which is reliable for amino acid testing, because there's a lot of comparison of these products for protein content, protein quality, but what kind of methods people use to test these products. So this is a very essential first method which we need. I would call it horizontal method across many different product types. AOAC already has an official method for infant formula, for amino acids in infant formula, which is adopted by Codex, and we hope that this new method which we develop could be also adopted by Codex for general food testing. So that's just one topic, but there are many others which we need to work on. And again, we welcome collaboration from the sections, which goes both ways, right? One thing is the education and providing, let's say, support in capacity building, but the other one are inputs, right, into new development of global standards, because new issues, because we really need those global views and to be able to actually develop global standards, because we really are developing methods which are applicable globally. So we definitely need collaboration. And I welcome collaboration from all of you. Again, it's sometimes difficult because we have different time zones. for people to be able to participate in working groups, but we do try to have them at different times so people can actually join us, and we need expertise from different parts of the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Katrina, for that. And I guess here again, continuing with my disclosure of interest, I mean, AOAC has been quite active actually in developing its geographic presence and to be able to get insights from different parts of the world. Certainly, I think the India section, and this is also a testament to the level of activity that the section is probably one of the most active sections of the geographic sections of AOAC International, and really great thanks to the leadership of the section. But also most recently, AOAC International has created 2 other sections. Well, one that is fully in activity in the Arab region, an area where India has quite a bit of trade, but also in the Southwest Pacific. Now there will be an AOAC International section covering Australia, New Zealand, and a number of Pacific Island countries. So again, I think all this global collaboration, which is one of the key themes of this gathering, is so instrumental to enable us to identify these emerging issues and act upon them, including with solutions, food analytical solutions, and their standardization. I guess I was given clearance from our organizers that we can continue the session until 1:30. So if you see me stay beyond 1, it's not because of the ineffectiveness of the panel, but because essentially there was a request to continue until 1:30. And I may actually ask maybe permission to have engagement from the audience in order to hear maybe some questions if I have clearance for that. I'm hearing yes, so we will probably have some input maybe from our participants here. Now, continuing with the aspects of collaboration and turning to Dr. Bhaskar, and again, research institutions are notorious, in fact, for favoring, collaboration, and in fact for even fostering these collaborations. Again, how do you see that role, particularly in the context of advancing the adoption of these new food testing techniques in food control activities?
Thank you, Samuel. Actually, FSSA is one such regulator which actually has very good collaborations or very good cooperation from the research institute across India. I say it because, not because I am the director of a research institute, but also because back in my previous avatar, even then we used to have a lot of referral laboratories. Even we created a system, FSSA has created a system of reference laboratories which actually do indulge in developing methods, getting it single laboratory validated, and then also trying to do a inter-laboratory comparison and then try to recommend to FSSA. So the coherence between the research institutes and the regulatory body, insofar as India is concerned, it's not just about the food regulator, even the other regulators. It's very unique, or it's very coherent. Secondly, the research institutes also contribute in terms of allaying fears. Suppose if there is a message going across the WhatsApp University or the Facebook College, there's always a room for allaying those fears. So that also, most of the times hand-holding happens between the regulator and the research institutes. And at this juncture, there is one word of caution. Always, whenever a method is developed by a research institute, so there is a way to get it approved for the regulatory purpose. See, for me as a R&D institute, the method is very beautiful and very executable. But can it be executed on the ground at a regulatory level? Because the cost matters, affordability matters, and the reliability actually takes the key. Now, to fulfill all the 3 criteria, there is a scope for further collaboration between the regulatory bodies and the research institute to make sure that whatever method that is being done at a research level becomes available for a regulatory purpose. It's very easy to say use an NMR, but how many of the regulatory bodies can actually start giving out NMR to so many laboratories? It's not affordable. And when you do only 2-3 parameters, it's not going to be affordable. So new age analysis is one part, And you'll also have to look at the life cycle of a technology. I may sound digressing here. 3 or 4 decades back, plastics were considered as the boon to the mankind because it brought in convenience, it brought in everything that you aspired for. Today, we try to brand it as something that is unacceptable. It's a villain of the century or villain of the millennium. All those things are coming out because whenever that was brought into the system or brought into the cycle, there was a lack of doing how to replace it for going ahead. But now at the juncture when we are at this thing, then we rely on technology for another technology without looking at how many problems it may create 10 years down the line. So that life cycle analysis using AI or ML is something that actually where the regulatory bodies or even the policy makers can collaborate with research institutes to come out with solutions, how to do a life cycle analysis of a technology itself. That actually will give a heads up for many bodies, be it is AOAC, be it is Codex, be it is regulator, or even the least developed countries. It gives a ray of hope in terms of making them available at a breakneck speed. So once because we know that this technology is going to be replaced 10 years down the line. So we are already ready with the technology. So that's how I see the collaboration between the research institutes and regulatory bodies going.
Thank you for that, Dr. Bhaskar. And I think, again, you're bringing, a very clear dimension to this fit-for-purpose approach. And, the idea is not to have these new technologies and to apply them like, we introduce a new toy or a new hype about a new technology, but really to making sure that whatever is developing as a result of these applications has the right fit for purpose, is suitable for what we are aiming for, but also, again, I think the achievability, the feasibility, including the economic side of things and the sustainability of that is so crucial for the way these techniques would be adopted. I'm going to continue really with sharing experiences and turning back to Dr. Susan Morris and seeking your insights again to bring the New Zealand perspective. In the context of developing your food control activities that rely on laboratory applications, I know that you have to include a number of stakeholders, a number of collaborators. So if you can share with us your experience on how you structure that, but also knowing the leadership of New Zealand at the regional level and at the global level, both for capacity building, for development of competencies. If you can share with us also some of the efforts that you are pursuing in that area and even some of the projects that you are also contemplating. Thank you.
Once again, thank you for the question. New Zealand Food Safety takes a risk-based approach to our sampling and testing. This risk-based approach also applies when determining what substances will be included in the testing program. This determination includes consideration of New Zealand farming and veterinary practices. And this is important as New Zealand farming practices differ to much of the world. Our food-producing animals are typically grazed outdoors all year round, so veterinary medicine use is minimal and certainly much lower than used in some of the more intensive farming practices that occur in many countries. We also consider the authorisation of new active ingredients and how they're used. We consider the international concerns around residues and contaminants, and in particular international regulatory requirements. And a key requirement is the availability of a cost-effective, validated test method able to be reported under the laboratory's accreditation scope. So we actively seek information to support the risk profiling of these substances, and this includes new test methods, new analytical instruments, and new technologies. And we do this through national discussions and, very importantly, global collaborations. We have regular communications with our New Zealand veterinary profession and our industry sectors, particularly the dairy and the meat sectors. We attend international residues meetings, and this global summit is an excellent example of that. We actively lead and participate in the development of Codex standards, and I'll use an example of that in a minute. And we participate in international standards organisations, and an example there is the International Dairy Federation. In particular, the Committee on the Development of Analytical Methods. As I said before, we contract our testing laboratories, and the contract specifications include the test method, the parameters for the test, and the requirements to report the test under the laboratory's accreditation scope. But within this contract is provision for New Zealand Food Safety, excuse me, to request the laboratory to develop new methods or to improve current methods, such as adding new analytes or changing reporting limits. So this is an important part of our regulatory process, as it enables New Zealand to ensure our methods are fit for purpose, for the purpose of our official sampling and testing programs. Just going back to the second part of Sam's question, how are we contributing on an international scale? New Zealand led the development of the general guidelines on sampling through the Codex Committee for Methods of Analysis and Sampling. This revised standard was finalised and published last year, which was a great achievement as it took 5 years and much international input and collaboration. New Zealand is continuing to lead this work to produce an information document to support the revised general guideline on sampling. We're also working to use data science to develop an interactive app to use for the development and evaluation of sampling plans. Statistical sampling plans are complex by their nature and typically involve expert statisticians to develop, evaluate and interpret the results. So the work that New Zealand has been leading is to develop this interactive app to provide for a statistical sampling plan that can be used by non-statisticians. So many of us in the audience, it could be used by competent authorities. Certainly it can be used by Codex committees to develop sampling plans, to develop scientific and statistically robust sampling plans for provisions to meet Codex standards. So that's an exciting way we're contributing to the international food sector support going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan, for that. And it's really a great example of contributing at the global stage with a tool that is used by the community overall and also with that level of accessibility. I'm going to continue with the theme of collaboration. I'm going to turn to Dr. Jha, the chairperson of the Scientific Committee of FSSAI, and again asking you, sir, about the way India's FSSAI collaborates with various stakeholders, particularly method developers, technology providers, to ensure that the newest approaches that are best fit for purpose, of course, for analytical purposes, how they are potentially integrated in your food control activities. And again, how do you think these collaborations ought to be governed and organized?
Yeah, thank you. You see, FSSAI is one part of government of India. India is having 3/4 agency of standardization. One is Bureau of Indian Standards. Earlier, most of the food process standards were being done by Bureau of Indian Standards. Now that has been moved to FSSAI. But still the standards of machinery, even the standards of many other raw materials, agricultural raw materials, other raw materials are with the Bureau of Indian Standards, and they have very good collaboration between the two. But still I think being both sides, I am also chairman of many sections of that place and looking after. There is a need of more and more collaborations. Another department is also Department of Agriculture and Farmer Welfares. They are also doing. You see, again I emphasize, this is a country of 1.4 billion people or 1.5 billion people now. And whatever we are doing, it is looking very good, but it is becoming very small. Suppose, compare with the New Zealand, how many laboratories we have per persons? How many laboratories we have here? We can say maximum 300. 300 laboratory which service we are taking. One farmer, one small, you see, you go to any street, you will get hundreds of vendors. Where you will send those vendors to get their food product checked? It is very difficult. They cannot go to the 400 miles, 300 miles to get their food products checked and then go for selling. So we need more and more infrastructural development with the help of educational institutions and research institutions of different state governments, also the central governments of other departments. Another important point as far as research collaboration is there also I find, it is my personal view that there is a weak collaborations. FSSI has not much fund, much emphasis on getting the research laboratory their own. As we discuss about the things of new age technology for research and development and employment, I feel that many developed countries are in the position of employment or deployment of new age technology. But India, we are in developing phase since 2000 or 2002 when we started working mostly on this. And 2006 this agency FSSI came into existence. So much more required, I suggest the FSSI and also the other countries who can collaborate for quick technology transfer. Quick technology for NIR, FTIR are the magic technology for food industry. And one small, I'll tell a small handheld, very small, not even handheld, you can say palm head, Atago, that bricks meter. That is mostly coming from outside country. We are more emphasizing that India should be independent or should be self-reliant in all aspects. All those manufacturing should be here. And for that, FSSI has to work hard with the MIT department, electronics department, with the Department of Agriculture, with of course health department is a part of that, to bring those company manufacturing in India so that cost would be less and less, and a small vendor thelawala, that those people can use those instruments. We are buying suppose now $20, but they want to buy in 20 rupees, Indian rupees. That kind of action required and collaboration is required, and government of India is very active. They have a lot of PM, what we say, the incentive linked projects. So FSI should emphasis to the government of India, whoever is concerned, to bring a incentive link project for manufacturing of those small gadgets which are being manufactured outside, and people are millions of rupees costing here. So if that is done, I think in 3-4 years we can equip all the small street vendors and small farmers to test their product before sale, and automatically I will tell you that our Indian youth, you see, this is the country of youth. They are very tech savvy, they are very active. Even you will say that out of around 44-45% population is farming. And they are also very tech savvy now. They are adopting any technology you give. You prove them that this is useful, so they are adopting. Only thing that it is affordability and availability at the local level. For that FSI has to strengthen their collaboration with the university, with the research institution. Of course, the bringing the technology from outside country to quick manufacturing and transfer of technology in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jha. And again, I think you've highlighted really important elements of the need for these technology transfer activities such that they can enable the cost effectiveness and the accessibility of these new technologies. And certainly the Indian experience in attracting those technology developers to India is certainly a great example to that. I'm going to stay in India and actually turning to Dr. Sunil again with your responsibilities leading research, but also an educational institution, and perhaps actually commenting again on the importance of collaboration with stakeholders to enable access to these new technologies, but also to enable the identification of emerging threats with the application of these new techniques.
Yeah, thank you. I think the same. One role actually, so you see the basic science research is the feeder for food science application, let me say. So some time ago, maybe 2 decades ago, nobody would have thought that there is a Maillard reaction and it will lead to acrylamide formation. Then Europe came forward, they say so much acrylamide, it is carcinogenic, but that came from out of the research laboratory. Then some time back, we never could have thought that there is a drug-resistant bacteria which we have to deal with. Again came, so this also came from the research, and then the research, they started to analyze them, understand them, see their physiological effects, and all that comes through basic science research. Third is like plastics, as my colleague said. So microplastic, maybe just 5 years ago, nobody would have thought, but then they were detected in the fish gut and then marine animals, and now we see that it's in the food chain, and even the human population are likely to be subjected to microplastic and nanoplastics, now nanoplastics. So I think you may be aware that in February 24 this year, when this Columbia lab actually put the water bottle, not this one, the plastic bottle, under the SARC Raman, and they saw that thousands of nanoplastics were seen in the light. So that kind of thing coming out of the research lab. So I think research lab plays a major role, first to identify the emerging, new emerging contaminants, emerging issues, and then they also then try to develop the instrumentation which can be sensitive enough, which can be then simplified to the field requirements. That's how it develops. And so our research institutions are on the right track. I'm very poised that, let's say, when nanoplastic came, the detection techniques are still not very much in place. But now with micro FTIR, they can detect in the food sample. And I must, I think you are aware, all of your food background, that the challenge techniques are available, but the challenge remains the food metrics. So any technique which is normally, if I have to analyze a molecule through, let's say, Raman or through FTIR or NIR, it's fine. But when it is with the food metrics and I have to say, take it right there, there is a challenge. So the simplification is coming through research in a way that biosensors are very useful for food safety issues. Lots of biosensors are available. Now these are being coupled with new age analytical tools. For instance, let's say an IR coupled biosensors, and then they are attached to the transducers, and then the signals are processed, and to a Bluetooth device or this thing based, you can see what is there in this contamination kind. So those methods are also being developed. So what is happening in the research front is identifying the new age contaminants or toxicants or microbes. And for example, I can say that when it was talk about 5 pathogens, 6 or 5, this is called escape. Escape is Enterococcus, Klebsiella pneumoniae, Staphylococcus, escape. So this is another is, I think I'm forgetting, Enterobacter, and so on. There are 5. And these are actually deadly. And how to detect them in the food then? Metagenomics has some advantages. New generation sequencing has an advantage on or to detect them, especially the long read sequencing. Long read sequence gives you idea about ARGs. But these ARG have to be detected right there. These ARG means the antibiotic resistant genes. So people are trying to develop very sensitive methods to tackle them. And still this is one challenge which we have to face. How to detect the resistant bacteria through resistant genes in the food matrix. Okay, that is another. So there are challenges, there are new challenges coming up. Basic sciences normally start working on it, then it comes to translation to the application part. Food is very important thing for every one of us. Once we know that this has not to be done, and this is a safety limit, this is the physiological effect, then we act on it. So I think as a feeder, basic sciences is doing its job. Less here maybe in some institution, more outside, more globally. So as my colleagues told on the panel, that there is a need to collaborate. We may not be as equipped in this country. Every country has its own merit in the research. So the collaboration is a call of the hour. And India is also poised. I think some institution is doing very good in the area of new age analysis, developing new methods, identifying this thing. The interface is still required, I would say. Challenges are multiple, I do agree, because food is a complex system. But I think with AOACSC, this is with the help of everyone, we will be able to deal with such situations also in coming future as we have dealt in the past. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sunil, and again, really for highlighting the various steps from the identification of the threat, the development of these new emerging techniques, and then moving them, incrementally into application and hopefully into integration into food control activities and the requirements of collaboration in that regard. I'm going to ask now our colleague from Vietnam, Dr. Tao, to share also the experience, your experience and the experience of Vietnamese institutions in the way you are dealing with accessibility to new technologies and how collaboration can help you do that. But also, how do you deal with the need to invest in further capacity building and competency development in this area?
Yeah, thank you. For the Vietnam, the government encouraged to use new techniques, but we have to propose about the advantage of new techniques, and we have to follow the laboratory requirement. That the methods have to validation and verification before use. And second thing, for the collaboration, for international, we have good collaboration with IOAC. We had some collaboration study. For the domestic, in the country, our institute is leading in national standard development for food testing. Last 10 years, we developed 74 national standard for food testing. And for the and we get the good collaboration between our laboratory network. For the the third thing you asked about the technology or addressing new technology. So sometimes the food trouble happen, and we have to use the new technology. So first of all, the priorities, we use standard methods. But if standard method is not available, we have to develop in-house methods. For the in-house methods, we're seeking for journal and some publication, and not available, we have to, based on physical, chemical or biological property of the substance or of the bacteria for develop methods. After that method validation, we follow the lab instruction in accordance with ISO IEC 17025. After that, we submit the method validation records and reports to committee for approval. And then the authority temporarily design for this method used for the state control. And then we have a training and harmonization method for the testing network. You know that for the hazard, we can use the methods, in-house methods, but for the state control, for the decision making, we have to use the designated methods. So authority designated method is based on accredited methods, or the method must be, if not accredited, they will organize assessment, and after that, and also they check competency that we participate in proficiency testing or interlaboratory testing. If competency okay, so this method is designated method used for state control. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Tao, for again sharing really the steps that are being taken, particularly to address these emerging threats and actually the sequential approach that you're following, including to check the robustness of the method. We have a few minutes still left, and I know that the level of energy of the room is kind of going down. So how about actually we see if you have any question or any comments to our panelists?
Can I have one question, if you permit?
Please, you know what?
Can we have a very sensitive method for viral detection? Load is very low, but new virus, they are affecting us in a very big way. And determining the virus in the viral content in the food samples is very challenging. I don't know, I'm not aware how can that be done.
Well, I'm not actually a food virology expert, so I'm going to ask if there is one that could enlighten us on that. Well, the only comment that I can have simply by knowledge of the type of methods that are used, generally the methods that are applied tend to be molecular biology-based methods, which tend to amplify the target, nucleic acid piece that is being targeted. The only issue that we have is essentially whether the detection that we have corresponds to a dead or a viable virus. So I guess that's really the main issue. But the detectability at low level doesn't seem to be, based on my limited knowledge, an issue with current technologies. It's really, what that result means subsequently. And actually, by the way, I stand to be corrected. I'm just giving this on the basis of logical analysis of the type of methods applied, but happy to entertain any answer or any contribution from colleagues and experts in the audience. Any question, any comment? Oh, I see a hand there, and I don't know if we can have, a microphone. Thank you.
India has a lot of challenges in food safety. So India is working, and today we have talked about the global food. So the people are selling food on street. So how to tackle, because everybody is consuming food for energy. So that's a big challenge for India and for the globe. So that's a big issue, and very knowledgeable meeting is going on, and thanks. So so how to tackle these challenges, because that's a very big challenge for the India and for the globe.
You're talking about the safety of street food in general, right? That's a large topic, I think.
Because a lot of people are eating street food, because India, and if you are going to globe also, in any other country, so you have to see there.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to turn maybe to our panelists first, if anyone would like to comment on this.
I'll keep it short. Actually, food safety, the moment you start realizing that it is my responsibility, you will be good. It's not about street food, it's not about the five-star hotel, it's about feeling, it's about behavior. The day I start feeling that somebody, what Samuel is going to eat in my place is to be safe for him and me, then it works. And to that effect, I can positively tell FSSA is doing quite a bit for the last 6-7 years. We have been, one of the massive campaigns we started in terms of street food hubs, where clean street food hubs have come up. Even training the street food vendors has also taken place. In a country of this size, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a time-consuming process. It's like if you want to have the diet as a root cause for removing iron deficiency, then it takes 50 years. So similar is the situation when it comes to street food in a country of this size. I'm not saying it's going to take 50 years. It's going to happen, but probably in a decade's time, all those things will be worked out. Yeah.
Thank you.
I may add that FSSAI has this food safety on wheel. I think this is a program they are running maybe for similar situation.
Yes, and I think actually, I mean, this is really bringing to the foray the importance of food safety culture and how do we propagate that really across the society. But if we bring this really to analytical methods, I guess one of the things I think that we are all challenged with is really to develop these tools that are practical, that are portable, that could be potentially applicable to those street food vendors, potentially to check some of their processes. So these are some of the areas of development. But again, I think cost effectiveness is probably one of the key elements. You know, these type of approaches need to be cheap and accessible to be able to be fit to the requirements. I see a question again. Perhaps we're going to take one last question from the audience. So
I have one here.
Okay, I think there is probably more, so there is some enthusiasm. So we'll continue as long as the audience is not screaming for food. We're all good. So
good afternoon, Dr. Samuel.
Please.
I'm Dr. Vidyashankar from Adani Wilmar. So I have a question. So a lot of newspapers are making Tirupati laddus now. So if you are seeing the scenario. So adulteration in the fat is something very, very basic. But if you look at it, like how to look at it from the consumer perspective. So you have methods like starting from the TLC, then getting into the gas chromatographic analysis, then MS or triglyceride fingerprinting. But if you look at it, the consumerism, like what is the quality matters is actually IV, PV, then actually free fatty acid. That's what we look at it. So and also the sensory analysis, like whether the oil has been really, it has been rampantly rancid. Otherwise, in the cooking oils, if you look at also, it is the total polar compounds when you look at it. If you bring together as a chemometric, like what Dr. Sunil Khare was putting across from the basic science, how it can be applied as a chemometrics method, like whether a certain kind of what is the source of the fats, whether it can give you a analytical method, like how we can integrate this. So any kind of a platforms, because having like 10 or 15 parameters and putting together to the analytics and telling that it is good, bad or ugly. So it is something like a traffic signal like red, yellow, green. So consumer has to look at it at whether it is green or yellow. So red, it is no go. So something like that kind of any thought processes, how we can integrate together, because n number of methods goes together. If you go to the cosmetics, it is different, pharma, it is different. But if it comes to the food, actually, the matrices is very challenging. But like as a uniform method, like how we want to really enthusiast the basic science people to take it as a career and really make it as a momentum. So this has to be integrated with the food regulators, is one as the laboratory scientists or the academicians part of it. So like how it can be made more significant to attract the young talent so that actually they really take it as a white collar. Because at the back end jobs are very, very hardships. If you look at it today, the tedious methods.
Yeah, I'll respond to him. You are correctly told, in the beginning I had told that we need the NIR chemometrics based instrument. We need to model 50 parameters of food safety or quality together as a one index or overall quality index. If you have heard in the first, my lot of comments I have spoken. For example, for mango we have developed one overall quality index. If 150 value comes, means it is going to rot immediately. If 65 comes or 75 comes, you just harvest it. It is very good to send from Delhi to Chennai. Like that it can tell. We have the aflatoxin meter based on the chemometrics, which can tell you how much aflatoxin is there, whether first it will tell yes or no, then how much. That quantification is also there. But the process is so small. In this 1.4 billion people, one or two instrument, one or two department is only working. And one, maybe hardly. I had made a group of NIR working group in ICR. And I am very sorry to say that I wanted to have a meeting in ICR in last month. Only 4 or 5 people gave willingness to come on using their own TADA. ICR is not providing TADA, we can collaborate, and then industry should come to manufacture those kind of instrument. 1 or 2 very good startup, one is from Kanpur, one is from Bangalore, are working and making the chemometrics NIR, FTIR based instrument for a particular purpose. As Dr. Khare has told earlier, it is a food metrics. For so individual purpose, individual instrument has to be trained, has to be manufactured, then has to be given to the individual users. The individual users, that cost will be less. Again, there is the problem. Whenever you buy any sensor, 99% sensor are coming from outside, including that the chemometrics जो sensor use करते हैं, all those sensors, NIR, FTIR sensor are coming from outside, so it makes the instrument again costly. So that's how I wanted to solve the original problem, manufacture those sensors, those spectrometer in India, and that FSSI and line department should work together to convince some company from outside to come India, manufacture with some collaboration. Automatically 90% of the problem of these chemometrics and IR, FTIR, or all kind of things will be solved within 10 years. Otherwise it will be longer. I am working since 2002, and one instrument is likely to come in maybe by next year. 20 साल में एक आएगा. We all have to work together in this big country. That is not happening.
Thank you. Thank you again for the comment. Also, I guess it's really highlighting the need to integrate various disciplines, including sensory analysis and various methods in order to lead to really the type of results that you're looking at. I guess the allowance that we received from the organizers has.
I had been last year in Purdue University, University of Nebraska, University of Wisconsin. Adani is a lot of giving fund for research there, but Adani is not giving research fund in the India. And I tell you that our scientists is much better. Again, the Indian scientists are doing the same job, who are working under me. Since 10 years, went to Purdue University. They are working using the Indian fund in America, and those technology will come here. So Indian private company have to change the mindset that our scientist is much better than any other scientist, and you should, all private companies should give the fund. In Indian university institution, then automatically things will happen.
Indeed, I think the leadership of Indian institutions and Indian expertise is very well witnessed, not only in India, but actually throughout the world. And I guess being a citizen of a country that is of multicultural composition, I can attest really to the importance of the contribution of our citizens from Indian descent in the development of the country, and particularly in the development of science and technology. And India is to be congratulated for that. Thank you. The allowance that we have received from our organizers actually has reached really its end. So I think we have really shared a number of insights and received a great contribution from our panelists. I think we've highlighted the importance of the investment in new testing techniques, in our ability to identify these emerging threats to food, and particularly the identification of new food hazards. We've highlighted a number of steps that need to be taken in that regard. The need to investigate fit for purpose, the need to consider adaptability, cost effectiveness, the need to look at technology transfer, and of course the importance of collaboration and capacity building that will continue to be an area of focus and definitely a key theme of the summit. I would like you to join me in thanking our panelists and thanking you for your contribution to this panel. Thank you very much. And with that, actually, I give back the floor to Gurpreet. Thank you very much.